evening, everyone, and welcome. We're going to begin a study session now on the framework and role of the Independent Police Auditor. Okay, we have many very, very patient members of the community who have been waiting. So I'd like to ask if you could come forward, please. Everyone has 2 minutes to speak. Reverend Rowan Fairgrove, followed by Bob. I believe it's Gelder. Please forgive me if I've mispronounced your name, Bob. Lisa Martinez, Frank Richardson, Yeme Girma. Welcome.
Good evening.
We're gonna lower that for you so you can get closer to the mic here. I think.
Yeah, there's usually a subsidiary mic, but I didn't.
Yeah, that might be just easier.
Mr. Mayor, I just want to thank Mr. Bloom for coming. He does have to leave. This went later than we had let him know.
Yeah.
And I am immensely grateful for you being here, and have a safe drive back to Oakland. And our other panelist, too, is going to have to leave. So they stayed much longer than we expected, and
Yes.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you both.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And when we get BART open in a few months, you'll be able to ride that down here rather than being stuck in traffic, we hope. Okay. Welcome.
Good evening. Thank you very much to everyone for their presentations. In my tradition, we say, new dreams are born when old fears die. And I think we need to dream big and have the officers not fear the community and the community not fear the officers. I was here about a year ago when the University of Texas at El Paso gave their study report. And although stops weren't particularly different between the races, once people were stopped, it was really different. The blacks were 3 times as likely as whites to be ordered to sit on a curb sat, as they say, and 9 times more likely than whites to be given a field interview. Latino drivers were more than 3 times as likely as whites to get a field interview, and both groups were more than twice as likely to get a criminal citation at the end of the stop. There are still problems in San Jose. As wonderful as we are, and as wonderful as the changes that have been made are, having oversight so that the community is confident that everything is being done so that none of us have to fear each other, I'm for it. I'm for expanded oversight. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome. If I could ask the other members of the community who've been called, please come on down. If your name's been called, come on down. That way we'll save some time in between. Welcome.
Good evening. My name is Yeme Girma, and I wanted to just share with you, asked a lot about facts and stats. There is a strong community support for expanded oversight. In October and in November, we did, we asked the community whether or not they wanted this, and 88% of 1,000 voters, over 1,000 voters, stated that they want expanded police accountability right here in our community. Also, the May 90 reports that from surveys on January 2017, IPA Forum, all respondents said that the IPA should expand its scope and services, including reviewing incidents involving use of force when a civilian complaint was not made. Now, I just want to speak as a mother and a community member why this is important. I believe that expanded oversight will build trust and safety, not just for community members, but also for officers. This matters because too many lives have been taken right here in San Jose by San Jose police officers. We have family members of Anthony Nunez and Jacob Dominguez right here, sitting here. So in light of that, we owe it for the 29 children that are left behind, whose fathers are no more, who are still right here in our community, and making a good police department better is important for all of us. And it's not an attack on the police department. We can all of us working together for a just community should be a strength that all of us should champion and rally around. Thanks.
My name is Frank Richardson with PACT. First, I want to thank you for honoring your various commitments to hold a study session and make it a very serious study. I think that we're achieving that, so thank you. I want to encourage us not to confuse pioneership with leadership. San Jose was a leader when we initially formed the IPA back in the 90s. But I'm afraid that our model has grown stale, and with very infrequent and dated updates, we've lost our leadership status. We are pioneers now. We're no longer leaders. I also want to encourage the City Council to think about what the decision process must have been like in the 90s, because our police department was not in crisis. They were probably asking the same questions. What problem are we trying to fix? Why are we going through this? And yet they were able to push through it in the face of what was no doubt strong opposition from some of the same organizations that you're seeing opposition from today. Police Chief Garcia talked about wanting to police proactively, with the implication being that policing proactively means you're going to be out in the community, you're going to reduce crimes, and maybe a higher arrest rate in convicting perpetrators. All we're asking as a member of the community is that we have a similar approach, a proactive approach to providing oversight, civilian oversight to our police department. And the model that it would take would be similar to what we see in the best corporations in the world. It's a model of continual improvement where we collect data, we analyze that data to identify trends, potential problems, we find solutions, plan solutions to those problems, we execute them, rinse, wash, and repeat. And we continue to do that. Chief Garcia, you talked about the Vince Lombardi quote, right? Chase perfection, you might achieve excellence. But by not wanting us to continue to provide and upgrade our level of oversight, our quality of our oversight to the police department, you're actually saying that we've already achieved perfection and there's no reason for us to continue to chase it.
Thank you, Frank.
Thank you.
Thank you. After our next speaker is Tiye Garrett. I'm sorry. It's difficult if folks are applauding, we can't have people speaking. So please, if you could restrain so everyone can be heard. Tiye Garrett, Reverend Nancy Palmer-Jones, Jesse Fernanez, and Michael Gonzales. Hi.
Hi. My name's Lisa Martinez. I have some handouts for you guys. I only brought 8 of them, so I apologize.
That's okay. When you're done speaking, just hand them to the clerk.
Sure. Just after. First of all, I want to say thank you to everyone in all the work that's been done with the IPA and the Chief of Police. Unfortunately, though, there was somebody that mentioned earlier that there's a segment of the population that isn't represented in that trusting relationship with the police. And I think it's the lowest economic segment of our community. We also need to really work on the retaliation from people. People aren't filing reports about excessive force because they're going to get retaliated against in jail or wherever they're at. We already know the jail system complaint process isn't working. But also with Jacob Dominguez, for example, Jacob had actually won a complaint against the police before. And how do we know? Is anyone investigating who was involved in that shooting and if any of them were the officers he complained against? I don't think so. So I think there's big holes in our process still, a lot of big holes. And I think that we need to really do some work with different types of oversight, not just the IPA's office. So that's it.
Thank you, ma'am.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Tiye Garrett, and I'm representing PACT. I'm going to be sharing a quote from Captain Pamela Severt from the Sacramento Police Department. She stated, "Professional civilian oversight of law enforcement agencies can transform organizational culture in a positive way. Across the United States, however, policing has changed, and professional civilian oversight could be exactly what is needed to regain legitimacy, boost morale, and increase the hiring of diverse candidates, improve public safety, and increase trust in communities that they serve." I just wanted to encourage you guys all to look at this oversight from a transcultural lens, decreasing racial biases, and we'll all be stronger together. It's our duty to love and support each other no matter our differences. I commend all of you guys' efforts to decrease injustices and just support our community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Reverend Nancy Palmer Jones, First Unitarian, and also a leader with PACT's beloved community. I want to say thank you to every single one of you for hanging in here and for also giving us exactly what we asked for, which was a truly robust conversation around all of these issues. Here's the question. So, Chief Garcia, we are profoundly grateful for your initiative in taking on the police force analysis system. That's great, proactive. It is no small thing, just as you say. And the problem, as we see it, is truly one of trust, community trust in the police, and even police trust in the community. I heard a story about police at Christmas in the park being a little bit nervous about taking selfies with the community members. The trust problem is the thing we're trying to get at. So the issue with the police force analysis system is that if the single source of data is the police officer's own report, then how does that increase police transparency and community trust? Again, human nature, this is not casting aspersions on every police officer's ability to give an honest report, but rather it is asking that question of how do we institutionalize a system that allows the community to trust that we're really getting all of the data that we need to get so that we can see these overall trends. Is there some way to encourage increased community input and police transparency around the use of force, in addition to what we've already talked about tonight?
Thank you, Reverend. Welcome.
My name is Jesse Fernanez. The police chief mentioned having pride and honor for his department. I don't see how there's pride and honor within his department when they're killing unarmed men. Police brutality needs to stop, and I welcome the IPA. They should come and investigate and do everything they can to help the community so that we can retrust the police department and help us seek justice. And there should be no reason for the chief to say that he don't agree for them to come in and investigate. If there's nothing to hide, then there should be no problem. That's all I gotta say.
Hi there, my name is Mike Gonzales. I'm with the Santa Clara County Green Party, and I am a volunteer with PACT. This Thursday, there was an article that came out in the Mercury News. It says, police release use of force data in pioneering move. First generated study suggests city is on even footing. In this report, just like here today, Chief Garcia states that we are not in crisis mode. And I want to ask this council if we're not in crisis mode based on in relation to what? In the United States, or actually based on this article, it says San Jose police officers were used projectile weapons and impact weapons at above average rate compared to other cities. It said weight, leverage, strikes, punches, and kicks were used by officers at an above average rate compared to other cities. When force is used, officers and suspect injuries occur at noticeably higher rates than rates of other cities. So this is based on the United States. And in the United States, our police brutality is much higher than other Western democracies. I want to read a couple of stats from The Guardian. It's a few years old, it's from 2015. England and Wales, 55 fatal police shootings in the last 24 years. In the US, 59 fatal police shootings in the first 24 days of 2015. In Germany, 15 fatal shootings in 2 years. That was 2010 and 2011. In the US, 19 in the first 2 months of 2015. In Finland, there were 6 shots fired by police in 2013. 6 shots.
Thank you, sir.
In the US, 17.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Sir, I'm sorry, the time's up. Thank you. Everyone has 2 minutes. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Now, we want to hear from everybody. Everybody has the same amount of time to speak. Yeah. Paul Kelly, Bob Gelder, Sheila Dawkins, and Jean Barron.
My name is Bob Gabler, and I am 66 years old, and I am dumped here by Wells Fargo, which hooked up with the San Jose Police and the county because you guys racketeer on fraud on court. And so Wells Fargo was converting a trust, so they found it convenient to conspire to dump me in San Jose. And so we have a predicament with that because I was subjected to fraud on court and I'm still in San Jose. It's a little complicated because last year Walter Katz should have arranged for Eddie Garcia's demise. Unfortunately, they hooked up with this fellow here, Aaron, and then all they did was, I was asking Aaron O'Neill, the lawyer, did you have a new guy yet for the office? And then she'll keep coming by that, and I come by like several times from October through December. It turns out they've appointed him in October, and then he sends me an email in December telling me I can't come by the office. And so they just intended to let Eddie get away with the dirt that he was doing last year. But basically the guy's doing the most here is the district attorney. They should have done a fast report on Wells Fargo. They don't want to do it. Wells Fargo is hooking me for the Robert S. Gabler Special Needs Trust, and there's a lot of other issues involved, including the fact that I'm an actual composer of a lot of music that you guys probably even owe me for, because whoever's like Donald Trump made money on things like rock music at the casinos and hotels and things like that. Those guys owe me money they don't want to pay. I'm 66 years old now, and they think maybe they can delay and die and hope I die. But that's not going to happen, and unfortunately, you've engaged a fatwa. Now, that's just not the same as making problems with Muslims. When you make problems with Muslims, you hassle them, they don't like you. Well, if you mess with a fatwa, you're too fat to fly. And I'm telling you, you in San Jose, with Eddie Garcia and this man here who was scamming me just because he's in Walter Katz's job, rubber stamping for Eddie and Rosen, well, you're going to get some more Islamic State problems.
Thank you. Welcome.
Hi, my name is Jeremy Taylor. I've got 3 quick points to go over. The first, I was at a political event 2 years ago, and there were about 100 cops 2 blocks away from about a dozen different people that got beat up. I don't think we need to dwell on the past, but I truly hope that nothing like that ever happens again in this city. Second point, I've got an awesome council member who's doing a ton to help my neighborhood, but I think we could use a little bit more help. So I'm just gonna give you an idea of the things that we're going through in the Gardner neighborhood. The Gardner neighborhood is the triangle below 87 and 280. So I heard a lot of talk about preventative interaction. I just want to give a glimpse of our last 2 weeks. 2 weeks ago at midnight, we were woken up by 3 flashbangs. There was a standoff. 1 week ago, a rival gang came into our neighborhood and tagged our neighborhood. My neighborhood thought it was a good idea to tag in our own neighborhood too. So now we have 2 different taggings where there should be none. Today, as in 3 hours ago, there was a standoff about 10 houses from my house. Third topic is actually for some of these people in the audience. I happen to know someone that knows him, and I was in the Marine Corps. If that was one of my Marines who did that in Afghanistan, they would have been recommended for court-martial and perhaps gone to prison. So I just hope that you guys are listening to these people in the crowd. The last point is the next day I saw people from the police department talk about not wanting to release the tapes. If there's no better example for why we need more oversight of the police, let it be that. Thank you.
Paul Kelly, followed by Sheila Dawkins, Jean Barron, Jason Reyes, and Laurie Valdez.
Good evening. I'm Paul Kelly, president of San Jose Police Officers Association. I'm here to report that our department, probably for about the 30th time tonight, is not in crisis. Rather, it's on the mend and headed in the right direction after years of cuts and pension reform turmoil, but we have a long way to go to restore our department. I have heard and read much praise for the direction and leadership of our police department, and I too want to commend Chief Garcia and his command staff for implementing policies, procedures, protocols to improve how our department manages individuals with mental health issues, how our department intervenes when confronted with a crisis situation in the field and by putting our use of force incidents on a public online portal to be as transparent as possible about an issue that is important to all of us. I want to remind this council that when I or others give praise to our department for these and other important initiatives, we are really praising the men and women who don the SJPD uniform. It is my members that are pioneering many of these groundbreaking innovations in policing and transparency, with the chief at the helm. It is important to remember that any policies formulated after the study session should be founded upon facts, data, and experiences generated from the city of San Jose. All too often in discussions surrounding police and community relations, incidents from other parts of the country or data from other parts of the country are utilized to point to problems that do not exist here in San Jose. The recent public release of the use of force data clearly shows that we have no crisis here in San Jose that would necessitate a wholesale change in how police officers are investigated for alleged wrongdoing. We are opposed to a one-size-fits-all accountability model that is being peddled by some and believe that our current model accomplishes the goals set forth when the Office of the IPA was created. Thank you.
Welcome.
Good evening, I'm Sheila Dawkins, a member of PACT, and I just wanted to say, just like Chief Garcia is passionate about San Jose, PACT is passionate about it as well, and the citizens of the city are as well. PACT went out and we polled downtown and East San Jose, and voters spoke about immigration and housing, and 88% of those voters wanted increased transparency from their police department. And in 2016, PACT also conducted more voter engagement throughout the county, registering over 2,500 new and infrequent voters, and had over 10,000 conversations with voters. And they also wanted more police engagement. Since 2012, we've played an important role in Measure A, which is for affordable housing in San Jose, as well as a state ballot measure funding education, public safety, and reforming criminal justice. We are preparing, as the mayor and the city council are preparing for the upcoming election, we are also preparing to do a bigger voter engagement effort this year. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Welcome.
Mayor and Council, Jean Barron, resident of District 3 and representing PACT's beloved community team. And I want to thank you for holding this study session on this day after Martin Luther King Jr. Day. His words, his teachings motivate us. So far, we've had 6 beloved community dialogues. Each has been located in one of our communities of color in San Jose. Each has drawn between 200 and 300 people so far to discuss and focus on increasing transparency and accountability with the police. And to quote Chief Garcia, "We're not in crisis, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't do something." Now, to put this in context, the chief was discussing the recent duty manual revision regarding officers in schools, not changing the IPA's role. But my point is that both changes have been a long time coming, and they share the same overall goal to build positive relationships and trust between the police and the community. Crucial understandings of the 21st century policing practices show that expanded oversight increases the transparency and accountability essential for community trust, safety, and justice. And it takes years and years of work to build trust, and many, many steps, and only one bad incident to destroy it. Learning about and discussing additional oversight options is a step towards building that trust. And I want to thank you for wanting to learn more and wanting to move ahead.
Thank you. Welcome.
Good evening, Council, esteemed panelists, community members. My name is Jason Reyes. I'm an organizer with Silicon Valley Debug. I'm also a member of Justice for Anthony Nunez. My first question is this about oversight. First, I'm for it. Secondly, when somebody calls for help in this city, and they are in a mental crisis, and the police officers show up and shoot them dead in the front of their own home. I think that needs to be investigated by someone other than the police. I want to ask everybody in this chamber tonight, if your loved one, your family member, your son, your daughter, your grandchild, your wife, your husband was shot down by these officers, would you be satisfied with their investigation, or would you want the IPA to investigate them further? The chief here, not too long after Anthony was murdered last year, on 4th of July, by the way, he went on television and said that he was happy that his officers successfully de-escalated this situation. How can a situation be successfully de-escalated if the person is dead? Secondly, we called for help, and they called my loved one a suspect on television. Since when does calling for help make you a suspect? Before you all go to sleep, I want you to think about this very carefully. If your loved one was killed by these officers, would you be satisfied with their investigation? Say his name, Anthony Nunez.
Thank you, sir. Laurie, after Laurie is Alice Lynch, followed by Rosie Chavez, followed by Regina, Gregory Smith, and Peter Ortiz.
Hi, good evening. And first of all, I want to start by saying that the reason the officers aren't getting citizens' complaints is not because the stuff with the mistrust of the community is because it's better. It's because they're contacting me now. People in San Jose contact me when the police are doing bad things. I don't oversee them, but they don't have confidence, and they feel that if cops are investigating themselves, when are they ever going to be held accountable? And with that said, is whenever somebody from the community like myself who's been affected by it, I've been trying to work with anybody. Mayor Liccardo, I met with you a year ago, and I asked you for some information, by the way, I'm still waiting for, but nobody wants to include us in these conversations. You can't make policies with the people who are doing the harm. You need to include the community that's impacted, because we know what it feels like. Walk in my shoes. I dare any of you to walk in my shoes and see what I have to deal with. My children were 4 and 10 when this happened. Our officers are not trauma-informed. None of you are trauma-informed. So you guys don't even know what you're doing to these children. Here's a picture, you guys. Get a look. These are 29 kids. These are the most vulnerable. Mayor Liccardo, you said we have to protect our most vulnerable in our community. And yet, what are we doing to protect them from being exposed to police violence? Police are supposed to be role models. They're not being good role models because they're showing our kids that if you wear a badge, you have permission to kill anybody on sight, and you don't have to pay the consequences. And that is not something we should be telling our children. And also, when we start victim blaming, like Sergeant Kelly did, and said that that the victim's family should be held accountable for not intervening, that is a sign of weakness, because they don't want to suffer the consequences, and blaming us is an escape mechanism because they know they are not doing their job. And so, shame on you.
Thank you, Ms. Valdez.
Hi, my name is Rosie Chavez, and this is Regina. We're the aunts of Jacob Dominguez, who was recently killed on September 15th. And I just wanted to keep, and I'm not done, hold on. We beg to differ. We are in crisis. This isn't your family that's in crisis, it's ours. We got 3 babies that we have to tell that their dad's not here. And how they were killed, do you want me to really tell those kids how his father was killed? They are part of this community. How are they gonna grow up not trusting the police department? How are they gonna, or is anybody seeking professional help for them? They're suffering PTSD, mother's suffering PTSD and depression. There is nobody being accountable for that. I just wanted to reach on a couple other points. He was shot in the back of the head. I don't see how that's justified, unarmed. And there was excessive force after the fact, and I know if you guys read it and read into it, you will see it. I won't speak on it now. With respect to the gentleman's concern about, your first concern is money and getting sued due to IPA findings. How about our concerns being accountable, having accountability for the use of excessive force? Number 3, with respect to police changes, as Chief Garcia states, body cams, what is good if it's mandatory, if you're using it, if nobody else can see it, and if we can't, if it's who they pick who wants to see it? What's the use of having the body cameras? Also, I believe that we do need oversight from the IPA. Not one more life should have to go through this. Not one more family should have to be like this. 3 babies under the age of 7 with no father. And how are they supposed to grow up in this city that we've all been a part of for over 50 years, 60 years? This is not right, and I'm all for the oversight. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Alice Lynch. I'm also a member of PACT's Beloved Community Team. When my son was 16, he got pulled over by a police officer for going 85 on 280. The color of my son's skin is about the same as mine. Instead of giving my son a ticket, the officer called our home to let my husband and me know what had happened. As a result, we could determine the consequences for our son's actions, and he avoided a fine, points, and increased insurance costs. We all really appreciated the officer's willingness to let our son learn from his mistake without the consequences of a ticket. On the other hand, all of the people of color that I know have had much different experiences with law enforcement than what my son had. It breaks my heart to imagine what it would be like to feel the need to teach my child that they need to behave in a certain way so as not to be harmed by police officers. I'd like our community to be a place where people of all colors feel they can trust the police to be fair and respectful. Perception is critical. If the police are being fair, but the community doesn't perceive them as being fair, there will be mistrust. And because of this, I believe we can change this perception by making records such as the officers' police reports and body-worn camera footage of use of force available to the IPA for systemic review, and then make the anonymized results of these reviews available to the community. I truly believe that this would result in increased trust on both sides, that officers would not be feeling the mistrust and not be feeling the concern and the fear about doing their job, that it would be best for both sides. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Smith?
My name is Gregory Smith. I'm a member of PACT and PACT Beloved Community Team. I'm a member of First Unitarian Church San Jose. I learned a lot tonight, and as an African American, I find it interesting on many levels that the IPA office was established by city ordinance in 1993. Some types of change can never come too soon. Now, this study session offers the rare opportunity for City Council, the mayor, police, and community members to become informed about best practices in police community collaboration for increased transparency and accountability. I learned a lot tonight. I believe we all benefit from the perspectives shared tonight. I would like to say that we are all counting on you to move forward and to take the necessary steps to expand the role of the city's office of the IPA.
Thank you, Craig. Welcome.
Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, respected City Council, and panel, thank you for hearing us today. My name is Peter Ortiz with the San Jose Brown Berets. We are present today to speak in solidarity with the many young men and women of color who have been susceptible to warrantless harassment from the local justice system. In our community, young people are taught to fear the police as they have the power to execute our family members with little to zero repercussion. The police department and the justice system as a whole have long been used as tools of institutional racism for the purpose of terrorizing, criminalizing, incarcerating, and murdering our people to maintain the status quo. We speak in favor of expanding oversight for the police department because no one should be above the law, not even those paid with tax dollars to enforce it. Our communities need real citizen oversight. We should not rely on the government to run unbiased investigations on themselves. Thank you.
Welcome. After our next speaker, forgive me just one moment, Robert Aguirre, Andrew Phillips, Molly Mcloud, Helen Nichols, and Cynthia Fuentes. Thank you.
So I'm Regina Alexander, member of PACT's beloved community. So I wanted to speak briefly on the significance of policymaking for the IPA and the impact it can have on body-worn cameras. Body-worn camera policy highlights the need for stronger policymaking and accountability. Despite IPA recommendations and significant community input from PACT and others, the body-worn camera policy allows officers to access body-worn camera footage before preparing their reports. SJPD and SJPOA leadership stated that after the pilot year, they would incorporate community input to update the initial policy. But SJPD established their own committee. And while hundreds of community members gave their input through PACT's dialogue of body-worn cameras, priorities from the community were not incorporated, and the IPA's recommendations were dismissed by SJPD. The current policy and the process of lengthy, tokenized, but not real community input add to the lack of trust among targeted communities. This is one example of why we urge City Council to expand the role of the IPA to have a stronger role in policymaking. So I just wanted to also address one thing. You probably heard me laughing up there in regards to a statement that one of the council members made is, I think everybody here has had some sort of encounter with San Jose Police Department. And if they haven't had one negatively, it was a positive one, or if they haven't experienced something negative themselves, they're standing in the gap for someone. So please don't assume ignorance. We're all here because we care. That's it.
Thank you. Welcome. Come on down. Don't worry, the order's not critical as long as your name was called. Come on down.
All right, how's it going? I want to thank everybody for allowing us to speak, especially our community, because we are San Jose. So my name is Andrew Phillips. I'm 28 years old. I love the city. I want to grow up here. I want to raise a family here. I don't plan on leaving. I believe it's one of the most beautiful places to be at. And so I have an active role in influencing people in my line of work, especially the youth. I am involved with Silicon Valley Debug. Thank you for my Justice family for inviting me, Regina from PACT as well. There's two things that stood out to me the most here. I'm excited about the possibility of new changes in policies. I think they're important, especially with the IPA. Also, I talked to Eddie Garcia and about being bipolar. So I have been diagnosed bipolar in 2012. And up until 2012, I had 100% trust in the San Jose Police Department. It wasn't until 2015 when my brother was involved in an officer-involved shooting, and it was ruled a suicide. So my mom did what she could to file complaints to the IPA. There's multiple complaints here. I believe she even emailed you, Mr. Mayor. And so we have literally did everything in integrity and got nowhere. So I feel like the policy should be in place. We found multiple findings that should be investigated. Again, my hope out of all this is I'm in a role that I can influence the youth, and I need to be able to trust you guys. Eddie Garcia, don't take it personal, man. You're speaking big on trust, but you lost mine. And my overall goal is to gain that back so that every young person that I come in contact with, I can give them that assurance that yes, we can trust our police and yes, we can trust our city. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Welcome.
My name is Helen Nichols. A few months ago, I met Eddie Garcia. And it was a very, very touching meeting. A whole group of city people, I don't know who all they were, but I know he was one of them. And he made a commitment for change and more empowerment for the IPA. And I didn't hear that this evening. And I don't know a lot. I'm really just, a citizen here. But I was disappointed in that. That's not why I came to the meeting, however. I'm here because I'm a volunteer at the Santa Clara Suicide and Crisis Hotline. And part of my job is to call the police when I have a suicidal caller on the phone. And that could be somebody who's threatening to kill himself with a gun. And I'm afraid. I don't trust the police. And I shouldn't have to be afraid. I want more oversight. I want the people who are talking to me to trust the police as well, but they don't. Sometimes they won't give us their information because, no, do not call the police. So my job to help people is being thwarted by this lack of trust. And I don't even know what race or where these people are. They are calling in the San Jose area, but they're just people hurting. And they want help, but they do not trust that the police are going to give it.
Thank you, ma'am.
My name is Molly Mcloud. I'm a resident of District 6. My 19-year-old son was hit by closed fists, choked, and tased by the San Jose police. I did not make a report to the IPA, and I regret this. Months later, when I finally saw the police report, I was very concerned, but I was focused on the IEP my disabled son needed. 20% of U.S. residents in the United States have disabilities, and many are not visible during police encounters. I'm asking you to please support expansion of the IPA. I'm speaking as a white mother of black sons. My youngest and his friends exercised their rights to petition the City Hall and were met by the most massive police presence I've ever seen, certainly very different from the Women's March. It was July 2016. Police were on rooftops of City Hall. There were police motorcycles, helicopters, cars, officers proactively deployed all over the place, and an email was sent out to all city staff saying that the facilities would be secured, apparently from the youth organizers. The event was a solidarity march and speak out organized by high school black student unions. The current IPA model was adopted in 1992, before my sons were born. I hope it will be updated. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome. After Ms. Fuentes is Robert Aguirre, Jennifer Soboleski, Guatem Biches, and Sitla Mina. Please forgive me if I mispronounced.
Mayor Liccardo, council members, guests, and supporters of Jacob Dominguez. I am currently a member of the Barrio Defense League, and I had a brother that was incarcerated, and like the CDCR, California Department of Corrections, has their back, I believe that the Independent Police Auditor also have their own backs. I think there has to be a need for someone other than them to come in and look at the situation, specifically with Jacob Dominguez. Some of the BDC demands are to convict and jail Mike Pena and his accomplices. I understand that, as I said, I'm a neophyte, and I'm just learning. There's a covert response unit. My question was, does that covert response unit also wear body cams? Why are things being kept from the family, like autopsy reports, all that kind of stuff? I mean, like I said, I'm new. I don't understand. I'm trying to understand, and I hope that there is an investigation for the family to help them resolve the issues with Jacob, because my understanding is that there are too many questions in this situation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Robert Aguirre with PACT. San Jose was one of the first cities that established oversight. We have a track record of being leaders, pioneers, self-proclaimed leaders of the world. We've lost our leadership position because over the years there have been many advances in the field and there are higher expectations from the public. We don't have to wait until we have a crisis of the Ferguson type to make improvements. We can be innovators, as we always have been. The best time to strengthen San Jose's oversight is when we are strong, and our position, as strong as it is now, is a time for growth. The purpose is to build trust. Through transparency, for safety and justice for community members and officers. I happen to have had personal experience with the Independent Police Auditor and filing a claim myself. Unfortunately, the way the system works, you never find out the results, you just complain, much like I did at home. We have all different types of people living in this city, as we have all different types of police officers in our city. We have good people, we have bad people, we have good cops, and we have bad cops. If every cop was like you, Eddie, we wouldn't have these problems. You're a true straight shooter, and I appreciate you as a friend and as a chief of our police department. The unfortunate thing is that we have bad actors on both sides, and when you have a bad actor in the civilian side, they typically end up being shot. When you have a bad actor on the police side, they're usually the ones doing the shooting. So with that, I'll leave you. Thank you.
My name is Jennifer Sobolewski. I'm a resident of District 3. I have a question for Chief Garcia. The next time I hear you speak on this topic, tonight we heard about evidence-based IPA model. Where I work, we talk about evidence-based medicine, and so what I want to hear about is evidence-based worry about the witch hunt. I would like to know, what is your evidence that your officers have to be worried about the witch hunt? Councilman already asked about it, and I would like more evidence on that. I support increased IPA oversight, just because the good citizens behind me are not rioting and looting this, destroying our city does not mean there is no crisis. It feels like a crisis to the families. And it feels like a crisis to me too, because I hear a different story from what's reported than I do from the families. And I am not okay with how these people died. But I have no way to look into that for myself. And I have no confidence in the reported outcome. So I feel that increased IPA oversight could improve that. I feel that the people behind me are personally hurting for information right here and right now. Information that I assumed and expected that I would have a right to if I were in their shoes. But apparently we don't. So again, increased oversight. As you consider this topic, I just want the IPA and the police to remember that that the people that are here are more than just numbers. The slide 19 showed a number of shootings in the past 6 years. And I looked at that, and what I saw is, if I was a mother, how would I feel to see my son, Anthony Nunez, namelessly included under the number 5 in 2016? Or Jacob Dominguez namelessly included under the number 8 in 2017. So as you debate this, I urge you to please say their names and remember that we are talking about more than numbers, but rather human beings. Thank you.
Yes, you should know the names of the people that have been killed by the San Jose PD. It's really serious. It really is. And there is a crisis in our community, okay? My name is Citla Almina, and I'm from the Barrio Defense Committee. And I remember when the Independent Police Auditor was formed, and as it was a result of the struggle of our community, where we were clamoring that there was police brutality in our community. I'm talking about the Mexican Raza community. That there is a crisis in our community. And you have to realize that the majority of the people that live in San Jose are us, okay? So they have to go after us and control us like they do, all right? And I remember, you know, many of the people that have been killed, but we pushed for an entity that would prosecute these killer cops. And as a result, it was the Independent Police Auditor. What I'm looking at is Paper Tiger, to tell you the truth, because he really doesn't have, or the agency doesn't have any power in their hands to prosecute these killer cops. They have to come out of they have to get out of our community. They have to. In the incident of Jacob Dominguez, there was a covert response unit. What is that covert response unit? Is that a death squad? What is it? Okay. It seems to me that it is, okay, and how they executed him. They blocked him and shot him, and then they sent the dog to eat him up so that they can cover evidence. What the hell is that?
Thank you, ma'am.
I want to tell you that there's a lot of questions here. And there's a lot of lies that you would know.
It's okay. It's all right. It's okay. It's okay. It's all right. It's okay. It's okay. All right. Thank you. Gautam Bichas, followed by Regina Alexander, Jose Villarreal, Kelly Hanley. Again, please forgive my mispronunciations. Angelina Rodriguez and Sean Cartwright.
Yeah, I'm Jose Villarreal. I've been hearing a lot of talk about accountability. There is no accountability within the San Jose Police Department. You know, some might think that diversity solves all the social ills. Here we have a so-called, quote-unquote, Latino police chief, and, you know, our people are still being murdered by the police. Dogs are still being sicked on the people after they're killed. So what accountability is prosecuting the police. Not only that, accountability is letting our community know who is the covert response unit. How many other deaths have they been involved in? Who are they going after? You know, have any of them been prosecuted or, fired? We need to know these answers. In the third world, they have death squads. In San Jose, we have the covert response unit. So we need to solve, that's accountability. You know, we have a diverse crowd, a diverse city council. It hasn't changed nothing. Police departments with black and brown haven't changed nothing. So in many cases, having brown faces in high places just means brown oppressors. So accountability is also Mayor Liccardo taking out that statue of Columbus. That's accountability.
Thank you. Juan Ambitious, Regina Alexander, Kelly Hanley, Angelina Rodriguez, okay, Sean Cartwright, Bruce Roberts, oh. There we go. Thanks, Bruce.
Okay. Yeah, I'm very tired. I was about ready to go. Anyway, have a statement. People of color, houseless people, low-income people, families, seniors experiencing mental health issues, and young people are most affected by lack of trust and transparency between police officers and community members. The study session and resulting implementation of improved oversight models for San Jose will demonstrate that these traditionally marginalized communities are central to the health and well-being of our entire community. Police officers, elected officials, and community members alike. I just want to say that I've had good and bad experiences with the San Jose PD. And I don't know whether it's because I was lucky or because I'm white. Two instances, I was going 35 miles an hour down Santa Clara Street near Roseville Community Center. I was stopped by a policeman who asked me, did I know what the speed limit was? I said 35 miles an hour. He said, wrong, no, 25 miles an hour. He looked at me and patted me on the back and said, I'm gonna let you go, okay? And I thanked him profusely, okay? And another experience when I was at Walgreens. I was really sick and I went out to buy some NyQuil. And I went to a car, but it wasn't my car, feeling really bad. And a policeman said to me, do you realize that it wasn't your car that you were trying to get into? And I said, I didn't realize that. And then he said to me, look, do you know that NyQuil has alcohol in it and can give you a DUI, and I can bring you for a DUI? I said, no. And he said, well, I'm going to tell you, I have better things to do than to bring in someone who is on NyQuil. And he said, follow me and I'll take you home. And he was a black officer. So I just want to say, I've had it both ways, and I don't know. Thank you.
Thank you.
When an organization only incites protests over officer-involved incidents and does not display the same level of moral outrage or condemnation when a cop is innocently gunned down, then we must question the legitimacy of that organization. I'm quoting a July 2016 POA press release. So I think there's more than two, it's not just the police, it's not just the public. The POA is also involved in all of the ways that the public feels about things. I wanted to question, how would we call the IPA to get them on scene at a shooting? Because Eddie knows I pop up at them. So I just want to know how we would do that. I also wanted to include somehow the homeless in this, because a lot of times there are problems with the police abusing the homeless, and there needs to be a way to report this. As somebody who was just detained by the cops for working with the homeless. I also wanted to point out that shooting lethal and non-lethal projectiles needs to be included. And this will bring me to Craig Morales. July 2015, there was a call for somebody who was 5150, and that was Craig Morales. It had happened before. His friends thought the ambulance would come, they would walk him down, it would be no problem. But instead, they brought in a SWAT team. They shot him 5 times in the head with rubber bullets. And then they decided, hey, you know what? He's gone back inside. We'll let him calm down. And they left. And unheard of. They left, but he was angry. He was still 5150. He burned down the apartment building, and then he was facing a life sentence. Instead, had they been trained correctly and followed training, they would have walked him down. There would have been no problem. But instead, Craig faces a life sentence for that. And that was really, really mishandled. I filed an IPA report. 2 people filed an IPA. We never got a response. And it went straight to internal affairs, and nobody ever found out what happened. This is not accountability. This was handled poorly from beginning to end. And there needs to be accountability for everything, because Craig Morales, like other people, was an innocent victim, but thank God he lived.
Regina Alexander, Kelly Hanley, Angelina Rodriguez, Derek Sanderlin, Colin Updike Welch, Reverend Jennifer Godo. Okay, and Cielita. And if anyone else has submitted a card but I haven't called your name, come on down. Mr. Beekman, I had you for open forum. Do you want to speak on this item too? Okay, come on down.
Hi, my name is Cielita, and I'm a concerned citizen. I'm learning and trying to understand everything here. This is my first time being involved in a meeting like this, other than being involved as a normal citizen. I have a lot of questions coming from the panel here. So first, if I could ask if there's any way I can get a official transcript of what has been said so that I can learn more of the terms and what was mentioned here. A lot was spoken, and I just want to make sure I get a lot of things clear. Let's see. I have a lot of questions, again, like I said. First, if I can ask you guys as the IPA staff, do you guys have the ability to fire an officer when you do find them guilty? Is that part of
Ma'am,
the
this
process?
is just a time for public comment, but subsequently we may end up taking up these issues and offering answers. But
Okay,
right now,
'cause
this
I
is just
see
a time for us to hear you.
I see that that would be the ultimate goal, because if not, then what's going to be the purpose of the service? But again, can you direct me how I could get an official transcript?
Yes, the video is available online on the city website for every meeting. So you can go online and watch the video again. And I believe also we have an automated transcript as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for taking the
Sure.
time.
Welcome.
Hello, my name is Derek. I'm with PACT, a leader with PACT, and a member of Shalom Iglesia, a church in Washington neighborhood. Just wanted to say, according to what we've all kind of been saying here, which is according to the data, that we are not in crisis. And as that may be true, but as you know, the faces that I've seen and met with that are sitting here with us, who have experienced police violence or misconduct, as we've mentioned before, there is at the very least cause for concern. At the very least. And to officer or to chief, big chief, you've said no one hates a bad cop more than a good cop in the Mercury News last year. And I'm wondering how far you're willing to take that. I'm wondering if we follow the logic all the way to where it goes, if we can find ourselves outside of the police department and looking for some true oversight over the police department. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Angie. I'm with the San Jose Brown Berets, and I apologize in advance. I'm not good at public speaking, but I just wanted to make a comment on the data that you guys were showing us, how the IPA's complaints have gone down in the past few years. I think there's two very big factors. One is that I don't know, for example, how to file a complaint against a police officer, which there would be if I knew. And secondly, I think it's intimidation from the police officers. A lot of people, what's very known that police officers do intimidate people of color, Latinos, Mexicanos. They don't speak English, they don't know what to do, who to talk to, and they're afraid that they'll be harassed further after they do complain. So I don't think the data is very accurate, because if we were complaining as much as we should be, the numbers would be a lot higher. And that's it. Thank you.
If I could ask you, ma'am, excuse me, ma'am, pardon me, ma'am, if I could ask you to take a card from either Aaron or Siobhan, you said you wanted to be able to contact them to make complaints. Thank you. Welcome, Blair.
Hi, I'd like to thank the city for hosting this event tonight. I think the public, they were very nice and polite and respectful tonight, and they're very serious, it seems, in trying to talk about the issues here tonight. And I hope that can be noted by everyone, and just how serious we're all here tonight, and I appreciate it. And I mean, you're talking about data and technology, and for it to be a more public process at this point. And considering I've been talking about this stuff every day, every week for like 3 years now, thank you. I feel everyone is coming around, and we're all, hopefully I can like feel more a part of the rest of the community at this point, and how we work on issues of, say, data collection for body cameras, and how the public can be more involved. I'm working on a series of public guidelines for the public that's been developing for about 4 or 5 years now with the state of California, the ACLU, and others, and we're trying to establish really good practices for both the public and you, the city government, to be involved, and for us to work together to create structures, to create good organized ideas together. And I hope you guys are willing to work on that. To mention a few words about Chief Garcia's ideas about being proactive. With all due respect to his work, and I mean, we all really like the chief sometimes, that I think after a year of Trump, we're at a good time to really review his policies that for the most part are short-term and pretty hyper and overreactive. And I just hope, you know, the examples up in Oakland and Alameda County improve themselves. So I hope we're willing to just be mellow, lay low, and work on the ideas of communication that really need to be worked on in this city, in law enforcement. And thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Beekman. I want to thank the many members of the community who did come out and waited so patiently, and for coming to share your experiences and your views. I want to thank everyone who came to inform us and lead this study session. I think it's been very productive. Councilmember Kemmis?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. And I was going to remain silent, but I did want to express some things to the public. I also want to thank them for coming out and letting us know their opinions on some of these issues. I do want them to know that I've been in this office for 5 years, and we have been making changes. All 5 years that I've been in office, we get a report. The council gets a report about this big, and it has recommendations each year. And each year, we followed through on many recommendations. Some of these recommendations came harder than other ones, like the cameras were really a kind of a tough hurdle that we worked with our POA to get across the finish line. So I don't want the public to know that we are not working on issues that are important. We're working on them, maybe not as fast as some of you would like, but we are working on these things, and we have been working on them. And so I don't want there to be any misconceptions that none of us are taking these things seriously, and including our police department, which I think has been very flexible and has been willing to make changes, often changes that they didn't originally want to take. So I want to thank everybody involved, our IPA director, our police chief, and I also want to thank the men and women in our police department. I know not enough not enough is said about how they put their lives on the line every day to protect our community, and one needs to respect that. They do put their lives on the line every day. I know that our community, they do make mistakes, they're human, but more often than not, I think that these police officers have been models for the rest of the country to emulate. And so I just, out of respect for everybody involved, I do want everybody to know that they are open to change. We are making changes all the time, and you could see the line of changes that we've been making over the years, a little at a time. So again, thank you all for coming out, and appreciate all the efforts that we discussed tonight, the openness of the chief when we were talking about further changes. So I want to thank you for that and all the changes that have been done already this year.
Okay, on that note, unless there is anyone else who'd like to speak? No? Okay, all right. The meeting is adjourned. I know we'll be continuing this conversation. Thank you.